Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Snowies Camping Show. You are here with Ben and Lauren, myself. How are you today, Ben?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. So wherever you're listening to your podcast, don't forget to subscribe, whether you're on YouTube or your podcast app, and also jump onto our Snowies Camping Show Facebook group and join in the conversation. So speaking about the Facebook group, recently, and I realised we didn't run this on YouTube as well, so I have to make a note that whenever we're doing stuff in the Facebook group to also run it on YouTube, because I know some of our YouTubers, that's enough social media platforms for them and they're not engaged in things like Facebook.
Well, we kind of ignored YouTube a bit, the sort of community side of it until recently, and then we put a few things on there and it turns out lots of people use it. So we're going to use it more often. So,
yes.
Yep.
So recently we ran a bit of a competition, or it wasn't necessarily a competition per se because you didn't really get anything at the end. But
because we've got nothing to give away.
But essentially people were suggesting potential episode ideas, which was really fantastic. A lot of people had some excellent ideas. And I was also pretty stoked because quite a lot of the ideas that people suggested are ideas that we already have in the pipeline. So it was good to sort of know, we're actually making content that people do want to hear about, which is awesome.
And lots that we realised we need to be not quite, or maybe just focus on the little things.
Yeah. So, it was a really cool little exercise that we did there in the Camping Show Facebook group. But anyway, the point of that post was whoever's suggestion got the most interactions, like smiley faces, whatever you want to call them, we would do an episode on.
Yep.
And it was a draw. So today –
how was it a draw? Like, did you? It
was a draw because two of the suggestions had exactly the same amount of interactions.
Oh, I see.
Does that make sense?
Like you're talking about pluses, like thumbs up or whatever. Yeah, okay.
Pluses. Oh, you're adorable.
Oh, get out. We're going to start the episode again now. You just call me adorable.
Anyway, So two of the comments had the same amount of interaction, reaction pluses.
It's like Google Plus. A long time ago.
And so instead of trying to pick between the two, we decided we will just do both of them.
Cool.
So today's episode was suggested by Lisa Hocking. Hello, Lisa. And basically she just wanted to know more about our individual camping setups, like actually running through.
Which we talked about for quite a while.
We've talked about.
And we wanted to have kind of video on it, don't we?
Yeah.
It's kind of a walkthrough, but that means we've got to like pack the car and then come in with the car ready. And
I know.
And logistically it's more difficult.
It's one of those things where we've both, it's commonly been asked, and I think there is a couple of factors. One of them is we're like, but our camping setup isn't really that good. We're just everyday people. We're not fancy or whatever.
People are expecting the absolute
and it's
best
sort of
and latest in all the gear.
Yeah, a bit of that imposter syndrome or whatever. You're worried that people are going to go, what? And you shouldn't be hosting a podcast. It's your setup. And then
well, that might be our first censored word in the podcast. I don't know. Do we have to censor it? I'm not sure. Anyway,
probably.
There might be a bleep there.
Apologies. Make note of the time stamp there. Right, anyway.
Do you know what you were saying now?
Oh, man, we're out of control. And then the other factor is, like you said, the logistics of just actually doing it.
Yep.
But we have received this question loads of times, especially since starting the podcast, and it's one of those things where it's like, how do we adequately run through our setup just by audio and talking? Because it's one of those things that you probably really need to see.
Yep.
But anyway, nevertheless.
We'll do it one day. When next opportunity arises, we will do a walkthrough.
Yeah.
No promises on when, but we will get there.
We're basically just going to cover it as much as we can, in this audio format essentially, because it is something that people want to know. And we have touched on various elements of this throughout a whole host of different episodes. So we're just consolidating the information here and now in this single episode.
Yep.
I will also preface that when we're going to ACOF, Australian Camp Oven Festival, in Millmerran in Queensland on the October long weekend, I will be driving there in my setup.
Ooh,
so with Larry, who's our videographer, I've teed up that we will do an actual video on my setup.
Well, that'll be good.
At ACOF, because it will all be there. We'll have all our tech gear there. It'll be in situ. It'll be good, ready to go. So
awesome. I will not, just for the record, I'm getting a hire car. But
you're doing a fancy holiday.
I am, because I'm in the Gold Coast with the kids and taking time out for it. So I'll just have a hire car, so nothing fancy.
But we'll get to yours at some stage. Yeah.
Next time I get out camping.
Right.
I'll do a runabout. So today
let's get stuck into yours.
I don't know if we'll get through both of ours today, but we'll at least get into mine and we'll see how we go for time. So you're interviewing me.
Yeah.
On my setup.
On your setup. Right. So
far away.
What type of camping do you do?
Well, I've got 2 young daughters, so it's family, preferably 4-wheel drive touring type camping. I'm not a full-blown sort of a hardcore 4-wheel drive. It's set up as a tourer, outback touring.
And you're primarily set up to be able to go off the beaten track and do bush camping and stuff and avoid like a lot of facilities, correct?
Yes, with the exception of I probably need to modify my toilet setup, which we'll get to because of the bigger focus nowadays on being self-sufficient for toilets.
Yeah, cool. And what kind of vehicle do you have?
So it's in plenty of videos that you would have seen on the YouTube channel, but it's at the moment a Nissan Patrol. It's a 2011 Y61 silver Patrol. Is
it silver?
Yeah.
It looks sort of gold or bronzy to me.
I used to have an old GU that was gold, champagne they called it, but this one's silver.
Is it really?
Yeah, maybe it was just after the Pilbara or something and it had a tinge of red over the top and that's what you thought. But it's nothing over, like it's pretty standard. I've got standard size wheels on it. It's got like upgraded suspension for touring and sort of the basic extras, I suppose, auxiliary battery and those sort of things, but it's not over the top.
How much of an upgraded suspension do you have?
Oh, it was on it when I bought it.
Okay.
It's an old man EMU suspension and it wouldn't be more than like your standard 1-inch lift, just with better quality shocks and springs. So it's nothing over the top.
Yeah.
And it did have bigger tyres on it, but I actually pulled them back just to getting good quality all-terrain sort of 70-30 tyres on it so that it –
because ultimately it's your daily driver, isn't it, realistically? I mean, you public transport to work and ride and whatever where possible, but it is your family's daily driver. Oh, really?
Yeah, on a week. Yeah, we've got a small car to get around, but this is used as a second car and to get around on the weekend. If we're going for a long drive, we'll take Patrol.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
So what is your tent/sleeping shelter setup?
So I've got a lot of tents at home at the moment, and probably what I'll settle on moving forward is an RV5. I love the RV5. We've got the sidewalls to go on that, so you can create the sleeping shelter, sleeping area, and then you've got your awning and you can pick and choose which walls you want on there, whether it's fully enclosed, just one side to cut out the wind.
Yeah, so you said side walls, but do you mean you've also got the front? Like you've got all
Not
three?
The front wall.
Or you don't have the front
just the
wall?
side, just the side panels they're called from the RV perspective, but I haven't got the front. Never really needed it. I don't like to be too enclosed when I'm camping. Like I've got my room to get into to sleep in and be enclosed at night when I'm sleeping, but I like to have openness.
I guess the side walls give you potentially a bit of a windbreak and a bit of extra shelter and maybe privacy as well.
Yep, absolutely. Sun and wind mainly, and rain as well. If it is raining and you've set the tent up properly, you've got a bit more space to just shelter from the rain. But I've got like a big dome. It's an older Black Wolf like family dome.
Mojave or Mojave?
No, it's called a tough dome.
Oh, yeah,
twin.
yeah.
It's big. And that's what we got when I went from like just using hiking tents in a 4-wheel drive because it was just 2 of us and we were super simple sort of set up to like, okay, we're getting kids, we need to get a family tent. And it was a big jump for me to get this massive 20-kilo tent. So we might use that if we're, say, going somewhere and going to stay for 3-4 days plus.
Yeah.
We'll put that there because there's room for the kids to run around inside. And particularly if it is wet weather, it's one big room. So we can have beds at each end and there's a big space in the middle and there's room to just kind of be in the tent if it's really rainy. But more and more we're just using the RV tent now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ease of setup and reliability.
So obviously your kids are a bit younger, still on that younger end of things. Is the intention that as they get older, you might enclose that front space on your RV so there's an additional room, or would you consider getting an extra tent or taking an extra tent?
That's a good question. I haven't got to that stage of thinking about how that might work. I mean, I'd be quite happy to sleep outside the tent under the stars. That's happened before. When I'll just go sleep outside.
They can have the tent,
I guess we'd have to play it by ear with the kids. They still like sleeping in the same space as us, but eventually that might change. And I guess we'll be led by them a bit. What do they want? But then I need to think about how all that fits in the car as well.
And your like minimalist sort of nature of packing.
Yeah, that's right. I have used a lightweight Instant Up 4P tent in the past, more so to see how it lasts. So we did a 2-week trip with just a 4P silver, and it's pretty hammered after 2 weeks on outback dirt roads, but it was fine. I did have to sort of anchor it to the car one sandstormy night because it was kicking around a fair bit, and we woke up with sand all over us. But that's a lightweight option, but not as reliable. I spent more time thinking, is the tent's right? I better get up and check this. I better check that. I better put some extra pegs in here.
That's a silver 4P Instant Up, Coleman.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's a lighter weight option, but with those lighter weight options comes the benefit of less weight in the car, easier to handle, more space with your packing scenario because it doesn't take up as much room. But
I guess when you're saying lighter weight, it's more so the context of the fabrics, because those Instant Up framed tents do tend to be heavier than a dome alternative or something like that, right? Just because of the nature of the frame and how much, engineering of it and physical frame is required for that Instant Up to stay strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And probably they're good for livability because the walls are upright. So for family camping, that's good. But if you're kind of maybe looking for something to withstand all weathers, tropical storms. I mean, there was a tropical storm we were in up in Kakadu on my last trip. I don't think the Instant Up would have lasted that storm. It would have been damaged.
Okay.
A dome tent may have done because it's more forgiving, and maybe an air tent, but then I don't have the livability of the family camping side of it. So but the RV is a good balance for me of everything. It's tough. You anchor it. You set it up properly. It's rock solid.
It's good quality, isn't it?
Yep.
So actually, just really quickly on the RV, if you're just stopping at a place just for one night and the weather's pretty calm, do you bother pegging everything out, or is it one of those things where you could probably get away with just pegging the four corners and chucking your mattresses in, and then you're getting up the next morning and you're leaving? I mean, I know what we need, not what we need to say, but probably what we should say because what best practice is. Yeah. But with that style, you reckon you could get away with it?
You probably could, at least not put the awning up. If it's a quick stop, if I'm there late at night, going first thing in the morning, I just put the tent up. You could put 4 pegs in and sleep in it. Probably if I'm only going to put 4 pegs in, I'd probably sooner put the 4 guy ropes in than the 4 pegs around the base, to be honest, so that at least if it does get windy during the night, I figure it's easier to spend an extra 5 minutes pegging it then than at 2 a.m. when the wind picks up and I've got to get up and do it
flapping
then. So,
that's actually a good point.
Don't put the awning up and it's a really quick and easy setup.
Yeah, cool. So I know regular listeners obviously to the podcast would know that you don't have an awning.
I do. It's in my shed.
But not physically attached to your car and stuff, and also probably both of our perspectives on gazebos. Do you carry anything additional for a shelter apart from your awning on your RV?
Yeah, so the RV awning is what we rely on mainly if it's raining and we need to eat under. I do carry a couple of tarps, a mesh ground sheet that goes down as ground sheet for under the tent. You could also use that for an awning if you like, but I do also carry like Austrail Ultra Mesh tarp is what we carry, and I carry one of those, and I just made up some.
Sorry, because we've just done a ground sheets episode not long ago. You have the RV mesh?
Yeah, I do.
And you have an Austrail Ultra Mesh?
Yes. Okay, so take 2 of them. Sometimes I'll take a waterproof poly tarp if I want, and then it's a toss up whether I take both or one or the other of the second mesh tarp or the waterproof tarp. But I prefer the mesh ones. I think they're more versatile. And that's a ground sheet. It's something to set up if I have an outback shower. You can put that as a ground sheet and wash the kids on it. It's also a shade awning. And I made up some little clips with shock cord and I can use the eyelets on the ground sheet and sort of hook it to my roof rack. And I think I want to add just a couple of alloy extendable awning poles and a few more guy ropes, and I can easily set up a simple awning on the side of my car that packs up to a portion of the size of most other
shelter options.
And it's got multiple sort of uses.
Yeah.
Even the extra awning poles is optional because I've got 2 awning poles with the Oz tent anyway, and it works out that I've got 2 eyelets on that awning, on that tarp that line up with the width of the awning on the
brilliant. Okay.
Or loosely lines up with the width of the awning on the RV. So I can just use the spigots on that, and then I just hook it to my car, and then I've got this kind of shelter. So
that's awesome.
It's not as pretty.
Yeah.
But it's functional. A nice awning, but it's functional and it's easy to pack. And I don't miss the awning. I know they're really popular. I don't want to say don't buy an awning. They've certainly got good use cases. But for me, I took it off and I thought, I wonder if how many times I'm going to think, wish I had the awning, and I've not done it. And I haven't had the awning on the car for a number of years.
Yeah. So talk us through your sleep systems.
So pretty much the back of the RV is just full of bedding. So I have a double swag. It's a simple envelope style swag, no poles or anything in it. It's from something I bought from like Center Canvas in Alice Springs many, many years ago, tough canvas. It's just lasts and lasts. I've upgraded the mat in that to a double self-inflating X-bed mat.
Yep.
And
I'm assuming the 10 centimetre one.
It's an older 10 centimetre one. It hasn't got the square size, but it's a 10 centimetre mat. And the kids have got 2 self-inflating Cedar Summit mats, so like 8 centimetre mats. Yeah. And if you put all them in the tent, it's pretty much full, like side to side. It's full of mats. Oh, I just spilled water everywhere.
Nice one.
And
the kids just have mats. They're not in a swag or like a canvas bivy bag type thing.
No, they're not. Because it all rolls up inside the one double swag.
Okay.
So when we go to pack up, we pull the plugs on the mats. I put the kids' mats on top. Their sleeping bags get packed separately, but we've got a doona. My wife and I've got a doona and just sheets on the mat. That stays in there, gets laid out flat. The pillows go separately. They just get stuffed in sort of behind the seats.
Nooks and crannies and whatever.
The mats go on top, and then I roll it all up together, and then I've got this waterproof kind of reasonably waterproof roll, and I actually put that inside a swag bag as well.
On the roof?
On the roof. Yeah. And that swag bag's longer than the double mat. So I've got space to the end to then put the pillows or extra sleeping bags if I want
good idea.
in a dry bag that, and then that whole thing goes on the roof.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So what sleeping bags do you guys use for your kids?
The kids have just got, they're older. I think I've got an old Black Wolf kids Eskimo bag. They're really good, these old Eskimo bags. You can't get them anymore. And I reckon.
Yeah, they've got like the shiny like 90s tracksuit. Yeah. Like outside, right? Yeah,
that's right, yeah. And my oldest, I think she's got a Coleman bag, but we need to upgrade what they're almost to an adult bag now for them.
Do you just take your pillows from home off your beds?
Yes, my wife does because she has troubles with her neck, so she wants to have a good pillow.
Yeah.
The kids just use like I've got Thermarest compressible pillows.
Or like are they the sort of like a foam core type thing?
Yeah,
like
that's right. Yeah, and that's okay for them. For me, I tried a few different things, but on the last trip I used a combination of a couple of Cedar Summit pillows, Eros pillow and their foam filled pillow to try and find a good but compact combination.
Use 2 pillows.
I ended up sort of putting 2 together in the end because I needed the height, but I didn't like so the inflatable one was comfortable if it was tight. But then my ear got sore when I was lying on it because it was too firm. And the foam one was more comfortable but wasn't high enough. So I ended up combining it together. I should hit Cedar Summit up and go, you need to combine them. So I could inflate the bottom to get the height, and then I had the soft foam against my head.
That would actually be really cool.
It was good. And then it packed up. Actually, I could fit all of it
Cedar
inside.
Summit, guys, put an inflatable core into a foam core pillow.
Yeah. Call it the Ben pillow. Don't tell anyone.
Call it the Princess and the Pea pillow.
It's my idea. It's my idea. So that all packs up inside a bag, and that all goes on the roof rack. And because it's inside, bedding's inside a swag that's inside a swag bag. The sleeping bags and small pillows are inside a dry bag. In front of that bag, it's all, I was in terrible storms, really wet storm wet storms, really heavy rain, and it all stayed dry.
All stayed dry.
Yep.
Sweet. What swag bag do you use?
That was a AOS, Aussie Outback Supplies, just their polyester one, but
that's not that green one that zips open the ends and
not the swag protection system. No, this was just a swag bag, so it's waterproof
the old
fabric.
One, right?
Sorry,
it's an older one.
They're not old, they're still current.
Okay,
but it's their basic version, and I wanted to get that to try it. I suppose is the thing. Where the benefit of working for a outdoor shop is you're happy to sort of think, I'll give it a go. I wouldn't get that again because it was packed a bit tight. The seam stretched a little bit and it wasn't so good in the sun. It was 4 months on the road.
Longer term, yeah.
So probably long term be better get like the PVC bags or something PVC that's going to withstand the sun a little bit more, or even a good
So
realistically,
canvas bag. The bag would have been fine using it as per normal, but you're just saying being on top of the roof racks, traveling Northern Territory, Western Australia for 4 months, just that UV.
It got to it.
It just got to it.
But I got my dollar's worth out of it. It's still, I still use it.
For sure.
It's faded, but I don't know, it probably would do one more 4 month trip, I suppose. And I'd be up for another one. But you can see some of the seams starting to stretch because I was trying to fit a fair bit in there.
Yeah.
So, but probably a good canvas one would be a better option because those swag protection systems are pretty heavy and pretty sort of fiddly. They do the job, but they're fiddly. But a good canvas one would probably be a good option.
I don't know the actual diameter of it, but I know that Coleman do a heavy duty waterproof tent bag for roof racks. Oh, it's like that black one and it's massive and it fits every Coleman tent in it apparently of any size.
Something like that.
And it's just it's like a ginormous dry sack.
That's pretty
something
much
like that would probably be good.
Yep, definitely.
So moving on to the kitchen, we have talked a bit about both of our setups in episode 27, which I think was called Camp Kitchen Essentials.
Yep.
We went into it more in depth there, but so let's just cover it a bit more briefly here so we're not sort of doubling up on it. But give us a rundown of that.
So my kitchen is pretty basic and it's something I'd like to improve on. But as everyone knows, or everyone that's listened to us so far, a multi-fuel stove, so I don't worry about a gas bottle anymore. And that sits on top of one of those just traditional wire leg, cross wire leg stove stands.
Oh, yeah.
Really basic. That's probably the one thing that's a pain in the bum to pack because I can't just chuck it in the back because it'll rub against things and cause, put holes in things because it's got sort of spiky bits. And if I don't strap it on the roof rack properly, it rattles enormously.
You're talking about one of those ones that sort of opens up like a clothes area, right?
Yep, that's it. Small clothes area.
And so when they fold flat, but they're quite big realistically, aren't they? Like long?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and they rattle, especially if they're on a roof rack. But that's probably one of the things. I haven't come up with a good solution yet to fix that. And then I have just a utility table, so a cross-legged utility table that is packed in a spot in the car that's always easy to get out for lunches and stuff. But that sits next to the stove usually as a sort of once food's prepped, it sits there, and that's the table I use when I'm cooking. And then we have just a dining, 4-person dining table that's for food prep and also for eating up.
So you take a mini table and a larger table and a stove stand.
Yep.
Okay.
In terms of chairs, those collapsible stools that I know you love.
Oh yeah, the telescopically collapsible outdoor connection.
Yeah, that's
stools.
right. Yeah, I have a bit of I struggle a bit with this mentally because I take 8 chairs, so I take 4 stools and I take some like Helinox chairs and sling type chairs to relax in as well. But they probably still take up less space than 4 big camp chairs. So
here's a question. Is there any reason why you don't just eat in your chairs?
What do you mean?
Like why do you have to eat at a table and therefore require an extra table?
If there's like board games or something like that, those little stools are great to set up. Plus those little stools double as tables as well.
Okay.
So
right.
8 chairs seems like a lot, but use them all the time. In fact, we use the stools more than the other chairs because they're just easier to sit at. And you're laughing at me.
No, I'm not laughing at you. It's just I know that you're like, wait, minimalist Ben, and then you're like, oh, I carry 8 chairs. And, it's just a surprise that I'm processing.
I'm being upfront here and saying I struggle mentally with the idea that I've got 8 chairs, but I rationalise it by saying it's still less space than 4 big camp chairs. Okay. And your moon chair anyway. It's probably less space than your moon chair.
I know.
Now, in terms of washing and stuff, just a tub. But I did take the kitchen sink, the Cedar Summit kitchen sink on my big trip based on your recommendation.
Yeah.
But it was the worst thing I took.
Look, I might retract my recommendation when it's my turn. But anyway.
They're good if you fill them up. But I didn't have that much water all the time. I didn't fill it up that much. So I think just a good collapsible plastic tub is a really versatile thing to have.
Yeah.
And all my kitchen utensils, food and everything go in stackable tubs in the back of the car. So they come out and goes so that little utility table is the spot where the tub with all the utensils and things will go. Just sits on that and you can work on top of the tub as well.
You don't have a drawer system in the back of your
I don't know.
floor drive anymore, right?
I know I've never had one.
Oh, right. For some reason I thought you did and you took it out.
I put a shelf in the back and I tuck stuff underneath, but I struggle with the idea of drawers just because of the extra weight that takes and maybe lose a bit of space. Whereas I've got tubs that I made these tubs slide under and I can use that space really well. And then in terms of water, that's in multiple vessels. So I've got a couple of 10-litre jerry cans. It's really easy to carry around. And then a couple of those Cedar Summit
water cells
that sit flat.
And you've got the X ones, which are the canvasy durable fabric. Yeah.
Yep. I think that covers my kitchen. I'm not going to go into the details of what's in each tub. I mean,
you've got your fridge and you don't take an esky. You just have your fridge.
Yep. I have taken an ice box before, but that takes up a lot of extra space for things that don't necessarily need to be kept cold. So I have a 40-litre angle fridge and the food just goes in the white tubs. They're just I can't think of the name of the tub, but they're just from like Bunno's white stackable tubs with lids. Yeah. All the food and stuff.
You like pantry stuff and whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that covers my kitchen setup.
Yeah. Cool. Now you mentioned before about, table for board games and all that sort of stuff. What activities and games do you have in your kit? Like as in stuff you take all the time?
Yep. So for a long trip, it was just compact games. So we had a little kit of like compact Operation and a game of Go Fish, which was like world monuments or something like that. I can't think of that. But it had
it's like a compact Operation that you obviously don't play while you're driving because you cannot win.
It's cards.
It's cards.
Yeah. So it's not like you don't get like little tiny little tweezers and a minuscule little. No, it's not. It's nothing like that. There's no batteries. It's cards.
I refused to play that game when I was a kid because
you probably like this other one's good.
I remember feeling every time it went, it like sort of scared me and it sort of gave me this like shock thing and I didn't like the adrenaline in my body and I wasn't very good at it. So I gave it up pretty quick. But yeah, the card game. Okay, that's interesting. I'll have a look into that.
My wife likes a game called Rush Hour, which is like
I know Rush Hour. Yeah.
So all those things she can just sit there and she plows through all of those.
So if anybody doesn't know what Rush Hour is, it's like this little mini car park with cars and you get different cards for different levels to set these little car figures up in the car park and then you just have to try and move the cars.
You can't take them off. You've only got to slide them in their tracks.
You can only slide them back and forward and anyway to get your green car out or whatever colour it is. Anyway, yep.
We've got a whole heap of small compact games. Pass the Pigs is another little one that we've had before. Cool. And some magnetic like chess and magnetic mastermind and those sort of things. And it's usually just a different combination for different trips. Yeah. Where I've got space, I like to take Finska, especially if we're camping with other people.
Finska's great. It's a bit heavy though, right?
Well, yeah, if I've got space. It's literally like if I can just chuck it on top of stuff because I'm driving somewhere and I'm going to unpack when I get there. But if it's touring and I'm unpacking day after day, I wouldn't take Finska. It's too big a thing to pack, too heavy. And same thing with the slack line. If I'm going to stay somewhere for a while, I chuck a slack line in. Yeah. To try and do slack lining, which is usually just me falling off a lot, but it's good for strength. And bikes for the kids if we're going to stay somewhere. I've got a bike rack and I will take bikes. If I'm going to go somewhere and stay for 2 or more nights, I'm happy to take bikes. But if it's one night, pack up and move on, I don't take bikes because the thing's got to come off the back of the patrol every time I've got to pack and unpack and it'd just be a headache. I didn't touch on stuff I cooked with the kitchen, but I've got a very basic setup of just a collapsible pot and billies. Pretty much all I cook.
Do you mean like X-pot stuff or in the pop-up?
It's like, pop-up. It's a bigger saucepan. So a pop-up saucepan and a billies. Okay. A couple of billies.
So now we're getting into the philosophical versions of the questions. What do you like about your setup?
The simplicity is that's the only word I put there. Simplicity.
Okay.
I'm always looking at trying to make it a simple setup for a number of reasons. To make it easier to pack the car, to make it easy to unpack the car, and to make it easy to keep track of things while I'm at the campsite. And I just I love hiking, right? Probably mainly because I love the fact that I've got everything I need on my back.
Yeah.
Everything. There's not stuff hanging out somewhere. I'm not getting stuff I'm going to find what I need. The only thing I need external to that is water and food if I've got food drops. Everything I need is on my backpack. So I love the simplicity of everything being in the car and not making it overly complex. The simplicity of that makes me relax.
Yeah.
Try to get the balance between what I need and what my family need because they need some other creature comforts for relaxation too. So,
what would you change?
So I would like to. So that utility table that I talked about that goes on the back of the car, I'd like to put some sort of folding table that actually is attached in the back of the car because for lunch stops and stuff, I just want to be able to open the car, fold something down and just operate straight out the back of the car.
Yeah.
So that utility table / some sort of thing in the back of the car is.
Somebody, just interjecting here, somebody in the Facebook group recently or not too long ago put up a photo. When I say not too long ago, it was probably last year sometime if I'm perfectly honest, put up a photo of the back of their 4B and it had exactly what you're talking about. Inside one of the back doors, it had a drop-down table.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And it was on cables and it just had a little latch to keep it in place when they were driving. It was really cool.
Okay. So, something like that. It requires a bit more work in modifying the whole door and that sort of stuff, which is why I haven't got to it. But that kind of, I don't know if that's the best solution. I haven't put that much thought into it, but that kind of goes hand in hand with a slightly better sort of stove stand kitchen combination because the stove stand doesn't give me a lot of flexibility. Like dirty dishes and stuff just stay on the table that we're going to, socialize at after dinner. Yep. So dishes almost need to be done straight away. I can't just pop them somewhere and then come back to it because I haven't got that much table space. So probably maybe a slightly better table stove setup, maybe a higher bench that I can stand at for food preparation and stuff.
Yeah.
But trying to find something that is compact. Like if I take out utility table and the stove stand and then replace it with something, I kind of want to be replacing equal size and weight with equal size and weight, if you know what I mean. I
understand what you're saying, yeah.
So, yeah. And to be able to wash at a different table too, because quite often we wash and then there's water all over the dining table where the kids are trying to do some colouring and stuff. And
gets a bit messy.
Yep.
So what have you done in the past?
So
if it's what I mean, we've got a couple of points here of past setups and future setups. Mm-hmm. So in the past, what was it like if it was drastically different to what you have now?
Before kids, it was like hiking tent and a couple of tubs and a fridge of food. It was really simple.
Yeah.
But kids came in and I talked about the evolution of the tent.
Yeah.
So the tent's changed, obviously. As I got older, I did have the full drive awning. I got that and then added a bug room to that. That was probably one of the bigger changes, so mesh room that they sat in. But we haven't taken that for quite a while now. Maybe invested in some better bug repellent devices to have around. And if it's really bad, they just get in the tent.
Yeah.
Which is probably a better solution than mucking around trying to set up an awning and a bug room and then packing all that up for the half hour, an hour that they end up sitting in it at night. Mm-hmm. I used to have one of those, those folding picnic table sets that are like the table and
the
chairs
two benches that like
integrated in one. Like they like fold.
It's sort of like a bit of an origami looking thing, right?
It looks like a gun case kind of thing when it's all folded up.
Yeah, and it's got the 4 individual squared. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
That was great for young kids, but I literally was folded up sitting at that with my legs out the side. But it was great for the kids because they couldn't tip the chair over. So that's what we did have in the past. And we've moved on from that. And probably anything else we took was more kid focused. So when they were younger, there was we used to have this little pop out sort of porta cot thing that that they'd sleep in and ways to sort of transport nappies and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of what's changed, but we've moved out of that now.
Yeah.
And I guess eventually we're going to future setups.
Yeah.
We're going to future setups. Eventually I can see, well, there'll be no kids or they'll have their own cars. And my wife and I would probably like to have like a dual cab setup with a kitchen and probably an awning back on there again and a rooftop tent sort of scenario. So we're not even setting up tents. We're just pulling up with the two of us and folding everything out and fold the tent out and we're set up wherever we want. You don't even have to find ground space for that. You can just park the car wherever you want. So that's where I see it being in the future. I would like to improve my awning setup, which is funny because I don't want the awning, but I want to improve the way I use that tarp that I talked about before. And I've got ideas, and I think you shared something with me a while ago about, and I've always thought about a sail track because you can get mesh awnings with a sail track. Or
I can't remember what that was. It was a brand that made a tarp that had a sail track on it and you could fold it out. I can't remember what it was.
Jira-Tarp or Outdoor Connection had one, but you sent me a video of someone who'd set it up and it was very much in line with what I thought because you can buy the sail track from a hardware shop.
Of course.
And I've got ideas of putting that on the side of the roof rack. It's inconspicuous. It's not bulky. And then when I want to use it, if I've got a tarp with a sail track, I can slide it in there, use two awning poles and set up a very basic awning on the side. So that's a lightweight awning setup that I want to I would like to invest in the future. Slightly better fridge setup because I put the drawer in the back of the shelf in the back of the car, and that's lifted the fridge up to the point that I can't open the fridge door all the way. And my kids and wife struggle to get in there, but it means I've got more storage space. So it's a trade-off, right?
So it's not on a slide.
It's not on a slide because slides are like 10, 15 kilos by themselves, and then you lose space each side.
Yeah, they're quite large, aren't they?
So I did think of a slide, but I struggled with the benefit of it. But I like the idea of like there's drawer fridges, so I could put drawer fridges under the actual shelf. So maybe something for the future. But I've got an angle and it's probably going to last me another 50 years, so I'll probably never change that anyway. And the other note I had here was like a 2 for 2, which I just mentioned before. Cab chassis sort of set up for 2 with everything just kitted up in the back to make setup really easy.
Yeah, wicked. Any other final thoughts? Anything. That sort of covers everything.
Yeah, we haven't gone into spares and all of that sort of stuff. Obviously, I do carry spares and I only carry one spare wheel. I just have good quality tyres. I carry some basic tool kits and first aid, and I mean, you could go on for a long time, couldn't you? Yeah. About all the, lotions and potions in terms of sunscreens and repellents and all of that. But that's all just sort of dotted around the car. The kids sit in the back of the car with a tub in the middle with a bunch of pencils and games and drawing facilities and stuff that's just strapped in with the middle seat belt in between them. And they've got I've got those bags that you put on the front of a bike. And I've just got like a bar on the back of the seat and just put that on there so they can put headphones and MP3 players right in front of them there.
That's brilliant.
And usually that space in between ends up being a bit of storage for food and stuff that you need while you're on the road as well. So the car's quite, like, we use all the space in the car when we travel. I would say the only other thing mentioning, we've got a roof rack, like a flat tray roof rack. Doesn't have sides on it. It's a front runner one, so I don't feel like I need the sides. And I just have the that swag bag with all the sleeping gear on top with the RV tent, a small ammo box with some shellite in it for my stove.
Yep.
And I strapped the stove stand up there, and that's pretty much it.
Okay.
We added pool noodles as we traveled, and I put the fishing rods on the top when they're together, but I've got a bit of PVC pipe in the back that I can collapse them down and put them into. It's tied to the cargo barrier.
So I know a lot of people have trouble with the RVs on the top of their car, but because yours is the platform, you don't need any sort of supporting plates or anything like that.
No, it's supported from end to end, and then just a couple of like fasty straps. So just nylon straps.
Yeah.
Sort of cut it into thirds, I suppose, and put a couple of straps on. That's all it needs.
Cool.
Yep. That's my setup.
That's your setup. All right. That's a good run through.
But I'm sure there's stuff that people go, what about X, and we go, oh, I didn't think of that. But
Yeah.
we'll
So
answer in the
ask.
Facebook group. Let us know. Yep.
And Ben will answer.
If you want photos or
And-
anything, we can post it there too.
Yeah, we'll try and get some photos for Ben, and we will seriously, I know we probably say this all the time, but we will seriously prioritise sort of getting a video and a quick run through, and
Well, we know we're going to
wherever
do yours
possible.
because
So mine will definitely
you'll be
get
at
done,
ACOF.
but
Yep.
yeah, we'll do
Get mine
yours
done
at some
eventually.
stage.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We will
run
be
through
back
your
with
setup.
another episode running through my setup, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Catch you later.
See ya.